Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very, very well, having a good Friday. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into, so let's get straight into today's news stories, what's been going on over the last 24 hours. Let's start off with WrestleMania 37. Now, we touched on this yesterday, that the reputable Twitter account WrestleVotes was going to reveal some information about the potential card for WrestleMania 37, at least the plans for certain matches, the featured matches in the process right now for WrestleMania 37, and it's certainly dividing social media, or hasn't had the best reaction, to say the least. Now, reportedly, WWE has 3 big matches planned for WrestleMania 37 at the time of recording right now. It was reported today by the reputable Twitter account I mentioned previously, WrestleVotes, that while nothing is close to official or being concrete, the following 3 matches are being considered as the working idea for WrestleMania 37 right now. These are the 3 matches that WWE has planned for the event. So the first match would include WWE Hall of Famer Goldberg facing WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. The other would be a rematch from last year's WrestleMania, and being Randy Orton versus WWE Hall of Famer Edge, and a partial rematch from WrestleMania 36 as well last year in Brock Lesnar versus WWE Champion Drew McIntyre, but this time Keith Lee would be involved to be a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. This, of course, would be Keith Lee's WrestleMania debut. Now, of course, as always, we're several months away from WrestleMania 37, but some kind of build or planning or hints or seed planting, as we would say here on the channel, could probably start in the next month or so as we head into 2021. It was noted earlier this week and reported and widely criticised that Goldberg called out Roman Reigns, the current Universal Champion, on WWE's The Bump on Wednesday. So that would maybe imply already we're getting hints and seed planting for a match between them at WrestleMania 37. Now, what is my opinion on this news story, on these matches in plan for WrestleMania? My response was, I think like most people, was an eye roll and going, WWE has a really big opportunity when it comes to WrestleMania 37 next year. We don't know, of course, the situation when it comes to are fans going to be allowed in the arena? Are WWE going to run an event with a significant population of fans there? We don't know. I would think if they don't have fans back in the stadiums, arenas by the Royal Rumble, considering they're at Tropicana Field now, you could absolutely have fans there at socially distanced seating. Of course, the issue is that the current pandemic is, getting worse essentially when it comes to the United States right now. The facts are there. If they don't have fans back at the Royal Rumble, you would think they're probably going to have fans back by WrestleMania time. There is discussion about widespread taking of the vaccine by then. Not that that removes everything, but certainly helps the issue, especially when it comes to fans attending events, sporting events, etc., mass gatherings, and all that kind of stuff. So WWE has a big opportunity, my point being that with fans possibly coming back for WrestleMania, it's like starting a season all over again. You can do this big show, start it off with a bang, reintroduce fans back to the product, and just do something really big and really special. It'd be a monumental occasion, right? This is the worst sort of climate and pandemic for 100 years or maybe even longer, right? So you could do something really special when it comes to this WrestleMania event. And when I see those matches, I just see it's a repeat of last year's event. Where is the creativity there? Where is the creativity? It isn't there. What are we going to do for WrestleMania 37? Well, we couldn't properly do WrestleMania 36, even though the event did happen. It's not like it didn't happen. It's just a case of, well, the fans weren't there. Was it properly WrestleMania? No, it was at the Performance Center. Let's just do it again. Why? Why? I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. The Randy Orton Edge match, I think everyone knew that was coming, and I don't have a massive problem with that. I felt their match at Backlash earlier this year was really good. The match at WrestleMania obviously was too long, but I didn't think it was as bad as people were saying. And the story is there for them to do the match at WrestleMania. That's kind of been the plan ever since Edge got injured. Ever since Edge got injured back in June, that's been the plan. So let's remove that one from the situation. That's the rematch. The Goldberg-Roman Reigns match, I've spoken about this in yesterday's news video. I don't understand it. I don't understand the demand for it. Maybe there is some demand. Some fans like to see Goldberg back. From a variety of points of view here, it doesn't make any logical sense. When it comes to Goldberg, he lost at WrestleMania to Braun Strowman. Roman Reigns has beat Braun Strowman since then twice. Braun Strowman beat Goldberg in 2 minutes. Why is Goldberg a valid challenger for the championship? He's not. How come Goldberg can just come out of retirement a couple of times a year for his 2 contracted matches and then say he has a Universal Championship match. He shouldn't be able to do that. He did it earlier this year with The Fiend at Super Showdown. Look how that went. And the match itself is just going to be boring. There's no desire there. Roman Reigns is a heel at this point, and he would turn into a babyface by facing Goldberg because, let's face it, the WrestleMania crowd is a smart crowd. The nights after the WrestleManias, they're smart crowds. They wouldn't. They don't want it. They don't. No one wants Goldberg Roman Reigns. Nobody was like, I am so disappointed with everything that's been cancelled this year, WrestleMania, all that kind of stuff. Nobody's gone. And the biggest thing that's really annoyed me about the cancellations this year is we didn't get to see that magic Goldberg Roman Reigns match. No one wanted to see it. It would have been a 2-minute match anyway. So what we have to witness it again, another Goldberg 2-minute WrestleMania match. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. And when I say nobody, of course, there probably is a proportion of people out there that want it because people do, I guess, like Goldberg. Where's the draw? Where is the draw? Again, it's the restaurant analogy. They go, yeah, but Goldberg can draw. He can get eyes on the product. He can get people to buy WrestleMania. Okay, right, they buy WrestleMania or they subscribe to the network. They watch SmackDown on Friday and then they watch it. Then what happens? Right? Then what happens? They watch the match for 2 minutes and go, I wasted my money on 2 minutes. I wasted my money on Goldberg getting destroyed in 2 minutes because that's what will happen. He's not going to beat Roman Reigns. So who benefits? Who benefits apart from Goldberg and his bank account? And I guess Vince McMahon because he's already got those sign-ups. Maybe that's why. Maybe I've already answered the question there. I just don't get it. When it comes to the Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, Keith Lee match, that does interest me. I will be honest, that does interest me. I like the idea of Keith Lee being added into that. The only thing I will say is right now, considering the booking of Keith Lee on WWE TV on Monday Night Raw, what gives us any indication that Keith Lee would win that match? I almost feel like he is just being added to that match just so they can do Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre again in front of an audience because they couldn't do it last year. That's what these plans scream of right now. We couldn't do it in front of an audience, so we're going to do it. We're going to do it, damn it. We're going to do the plans that we want. And then some of the creative have gone, well, you can't just kind of repeat the big main events of last year. Fans won't really accept that because regardless of if fans were in attendance, we did see it. It did happen. So he's going, throw Keith Lee in, right? And then Keith Lee will take probably the pinfall, maybe, right? Because Brock Lesnar's return to TV probably won't take a pinfall. Keith Lee will be there as a warm body. They'll try and play up going into it if this is the plan that maybe there's a possibility Keith Lee could win, but let's be honest, he's not. I would be surprised unless something drastically changes in terms of the momentum and the booking that he has on TV. I just don't see him winning it. So the reaction to being lukewarm to that would be a bit of an understatement. Obviously, as I mentioned, things can change. Things will change when it comes to plans for WrestleMania. They change every 5 minutes, but interesting, nevertheless, when those plans came out. Now, let's move on to a bit of sad news because it was announced yesterday that former WWE SummerSlam headliner Tommy Zeus Lister has passed away. Actor and former WWE star Tommy Lister has reportedly passed away at the age of 62. This was announced by TMZ. According to TMZ, Lister was found unconscious Thursday in his Los Angeles area apartment. He was declared dead on the scene, and officials have yet to determine the cause of death for the WWE star. Lister's manager, Cindy Cohen, told Variety he had been displaying symptoms of COVID-19 in recent days, and he had to cancel working on a movie after falling ill. They told Variety, quote, "He was a wonderful guy with a heart of gold. Everyone loved him, a real gentle giant. We are all devastated." Now, of course, if you're not familiar with Lister, he starred with Hulk Hogan in the first ever WWE film called No Holds Barred. To promote the film, Lister joined WWE as his No Holds Barred character Zeus, and at SummerSlam in 1989, he teamed with the Macho Man Randy Savage against Hogan and Brutus Beefcake. The event was a huge success, garnering 625,000 buys on pay-per-view. SummerSlam would not hit that number again until 9 years later in 1998 when Stone Cold Steve Austin defended the WWE Championship against The Undertaker at Madison Square Garden in the Highway to Hell. Later that year, Lister was part of the $1 Million Team at Survivor Series. He wrestled his final match for WWE at No Holds Barred the Match the movie pay-per-view event on December 27, 1989, where he once again teamed with Randy Savage against Hulk Hogan and Beefcake inside of a steel cage this time. Hogan and Beefcake were victorious after Hogan pinned Zeus. Now, after this stint with WWE, Lister also had a short stint in WCW as Z Gangster in 1996. He's also been in other films like Zootopia. He was in one of the Batman films, Batman the Dark Knight. He had that moment where, if you recall in the film, you're a fan of the series, where the Joker has the prison inmates on one ship and the people from Gotham on one ship. They have to decide to blow each other up. He's the one that throws the detonator out the window. It's quite an iconic movie moment, actually. So WWE has reacted to this also. They posted a statement saying, quote, WWE is saddened to learn that Tom Tiny Lister, known as Zeus to the WWE Universe, passed away today at the age of 62. Zeus first entered the squared circle opposite Hulk Hogan in the 1989 film No Holds Barred. The rivalry extended beyond the big screen as the Human Wrecking Machine quickly formed a common bond with Macho Man Randy Savage in their shared quest to take down the Immortal One. Zeus and Savage battled Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake in the main event of SummerSlam 1989. One of Zeus's most memorable moments came at Survivor Series 1989 as part of Ted DiBiase's $1 Million Team, when the Human Wrecking Machine got the better of the Hulkster in an impressive display of strength. Lister famously portrayed the daunting Debo in the classic Friday and Next Friday movies, as well as roles in The Fifth Element, The Dark Knight, and Zootopia. WWE extends its condolences to Lister's family, friends, and fans. And we echo that, of course. Our condolences and thoughts and prayers go out to Lister's family, friends, and fans. It's always horrible to see anyone pass away from the pro wrestling community, WWE family, or anything of that. So it was before my time when it comes to WWE, when it comes to Zeus, but I was familiar with him from his acting work. And then through that, you kind of learn then the history of his role in WWE, No Holds Barred. It was quite cool to see someone in The Dark Knight. It's such a massive film. It's one of my favourite films of all time, The Dark Knight. Have him in this sort of... He wasn't like a key figure in the film by any stretch, but it's such a great moment. It's such an integral part of the story being told that that's how they finally defeat the Joker in the film, is that, you know, it can't just take one man. It's everyone has to sort of rise up and defeat him, and he's part of that big scene. So it was awesome to see him in those roles, and then obviously through pro wrestling go, wait a minute, that's Zeus from No Holds Barred, and then go back and know the history about it was always fun to see. So sad news, and as I mentioned, our condolences go out to his friends and family and fans. So let's talk about AEW and the Wednesday Night War, because the ratings have come out for AEW Dynamite and NXT in this week's Wednesday Night War, and it's a massive, massive victory for AEW Dynamite. Because Wednesday's live episode of Dynamite drew 995,000 viewers, which is up 4.6% from last week on TNT. I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, I'm not sure Dynamite was actually live, was it? If I might be wrong, I think it was taped last week. We'll have to double check on that one. Nevertheless, it was 995,000 viewers, up 4.6% from last week on TNT, topping the 659,000 viewers, which was up 0.1% by NXT on the USA Network. Of course, it was the post-NXT TakeOver War Games edition of the network. No significant bump at all coming out of the pay-per-view, and then Dynamite just absolutely destroyed them in total viewership and the demographic. We'll touch on that in a second. It was the biggest margin of victory for Dynamite over NXT since the March 18 episode earlier this year. So, I mean, wins across the board here for Dynamite in this episode. Absolutely blew NXT out of the water. In addition to that success, AEW was ranked the number 2 show in the cable top 150 for the 18 to 49 demographic, the key 18 to 49 demographic, which is the one that the television networks and the advertisers look at, while in comparison, NXT ranked number 37 in comparison to AEW's number 2. AEW ranked number 55 in total viewership, whereas NXT ranked in number 75 in viewership. Last week's Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite drew 913,000 and ranked number 2 in the cable top 150 and 58 in viewership, easy for me to say. Last week's TakeOver War Games Go Home edition of NXT drew 658,000 viewers and ranked number 40 in the cable top 150 and 71 in viewership. AEW drew a 0.45 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic. There are so many numbers. 18 to 49 demographic, which is plus 7%, while NXT drew a 0.17, which is plus 6.3 in the same demo this week. So, To break that all down, Dynamite topped NXT by a whopping 165% in that demo. That is the largest and widest margin in the history of the Wednesday Night Wars. So that just goes to show the huge victory for AEW in that demographic. This was also, I think this is the most critical thing here, this was also AEW's best viewership with opposition from NXT on the same night since October of last year. Remember, AEW debuted in October of last year, when the October 16th episode drew 1,014,000 viewers. It was tied with the October 23, 2019 episode as well for the third best rating in the demo in the show's history. NXT was just up slightly in total viewers and the key demographic from last week. How does this compare to last year? Of course, so many things have changed over the past 12 months, especially with the pandemic, people cutting the cord when it comes to their cable bills and people just quite frankly consuming television media differently. But NXT was down 15% from the same week in 2019, whereas AEW was up 23% from the same week last year. So huge victory for AEW across all facets really, in total viewership and the key demo. And I think the most important number there was a lot of them that I rattled off, was that it's the biggest number that Dynamite has done whilst NXT has been on the same night. That is a big deal, because people will say, well, you know, AEW did get over 1 million this year. They did get over 1 million this year. They got over 1 million on the September 9th episode of AEW Dynamite. The critical issue there was that there was no NXT competition that night. That was when NXT aired on Tuesday for 2 weeks with the NXT Super Tuesday shows. And that's where the argument comes that both shows benefit on being on different nights because the fan base is divided, and NXT gets a better rating, so does AEW Dynamite. Nevertheless, this was the best the best number that they've done in when they've had competition from NXT since last year, since October last year, and that's when they debuted. So it doesn't look good for NXT. It definitely goes to show when it comes to the debut of Sting and the Impact Wrestling AEW relationship, something is working there. And this is what I've been talking about a lot when we've been talking about the AEW and Impact Wrestling relationship here on the channel. There's been this discussion, is it lopsided? Is it lopsided? Does Impact just benefit completely? What does AEW get out of this? Of course, Impact gets a variety of things. They get massive exposure. Their ratings were up this week significantly across all forms of media. Obviously, they get talent with Kenny Omega appearing on Impact Wrestling. But then people were saying, well, what does AEW get? And this is what I've been saying the whole time. They get buzz. They're going to get talent because the Good Brothers are coming in to face the Young Bucks, according to reports. Thirdly, that buzz transitions into ratings, which is exactly what AEW has got. Now, as I mentioned, is that just purely because of the Impact Wrestling relationship? Of course it isn't. Sting, his signing, his regular appearances now do play a factor into that. There's no doubt that Sting is a draw because he is. But he's not just Sting alone. It's Sting plus, I think, that Impact relationship. It's not lopsided. It's a balanced relationship. They both benefit mutually, and that's what I've been saying before. Now, Tony Khan responded and reacted to this big ratings by Dynamite. He said, quote, on Twitter, "Thank you everyone who watched AEW Dynamite last night. It was our biggest audience of 2020 and one of the biggest numbers we've ever done since our debut. The balance of power in wrestling has shifted towards you great fans who have started a revolution. See you live on Wednesday." So Tony Khan getting in his jab at those people that said about the balance of power. I mean, I was one of them. I still think the tweet was BS and very premature. If he'd have said that on the Before the Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite, I'd have said, absolutely, I agree. But the balance of power deal, I just don't, even now, I don't get, why would you say that a couple of weeks before? It just, I don't know. And guess you wanted to look like this premonition soothsayer. I just found that very odd. But nevertheless, let's move on and go back to the WWE land of things and just talk about Charlotte Flair, because obviously people are talking about when is Charlotte Flair going to be returning to WWE programming. It was reported back in June that Charlotte Flair would be taking an extended time off WWE following extended surgery, and her return date would be around the time of the Royal Rumble. It was recently reported, however, that WWE had been discussing the idea of pairing Charlotte Flair along with Andrade, of course, their real-life partners, real-life fiancés. However, Inside the Ropes is reporting that while there have been talks about that idea, it will not be happening. The idea did not get as far as even being pitched to Charlotte Flair. The plans for Charlotte Flair's return are reportedly already locked in. The report noted that Flair insisted long-term plans were laid out before she returned to TV. The report doesn't state what these plans are, but apparently these plans nevertheless are locked in. As for Andrade, his plans are reportedly completely separate. Andrade recently dropped a self-produced video last week saying he must rebuild himself in WWE. Obviously, Andrade has been out since October. It was reported previously he would be out for a month or so following an elective procedure, but we haven't seen anything from him since. When it comes to Charlotte Flair, she was last seen on WWE TV back on the June 22nd episode of Raw when Nia Jax, in storyline, broke her collarbone in a backstage attack. Now, it was no surprise that Charlotte Flair was going to be back before WrestleMania, around the time of Royal Rumble season. What that report doesn't know, it's a bit of a strange report to be honest, it doesn't know a variety of topics. One, the time frame of when she's going to be returning. We know she's going to be returning when it comes to Royal Rumble time. I think Royal Rumble time, she was obviously going to be back for WrestleMania, but Royal Rumble time now makes the most sense. So that's the, I guess you would the assumed timeline. It doesn't mention that. It mentions these storyline plans are locked in. It doesn't mention what these storyline plans are. I read those reports and I know the people that work there, and I know the people that write those, and it's one of those reports to me that I understand sometimes with the nature of wrestling journalism, you kind of do have to be slightly cryptic, and you don't want to spoil storylines, you don't want to spoil what's going to happen on TV. But is that really a story? I don't know if it is. I don't know if that's really a story, because I can just say, oh yeah, she's got plans, they're locked in. What even is that? What even is that when it comes to the story? We'll find out whatever her storyline is, of course, when she returns. But then can we go, oh yeah, that was locked in for ages? I mean, to me, it doesn't feel like a big, much of a story, because I just don't know. It just didn't feel like, okay, and of course plans will probably be in place for Charlotte Flair to return. I'm sure there have been plans for her return going back to the moment she left. So I don't know. I just felt that was a bit of a smoke and mirror story. Nevertheless, let's go back to the AEW world of things. Of course, you might have noticed that Santana of the Inner Circle, one half of the tag team Santana and Ortiz, has been away from AEW TV as of late, and it's reportedly to deal with personal issues. He noted on Instagram yesterday that his stepfather suddenly passed away last week, and his family has been dealing with that. There's no word on when Santana will be back on AEW TV, but it's been reported by PW Insider, but the company have given him as much time off as he needs. Santana, however, has taken to Twitter and wrote, quote, back to business. So it looks like we could see Santana back on TV soon, but it's a huge talent. I'm a big fan of Santana and Ortiz, but nevertheless, I agree and credit AEW for giving him all the time that he needs. Condolences go out to Santana and his family. Of course, it's this year. This year is just, it's awful, isn't it? So condolences go out to his family. Hopefully we'll see him back on TV soon when he's ready. Let's talk about Snoop Dogg, because yes, the story, we talked about it yesterday, that Snoop Dogg would be making an appearance for AEW at the New Year's Bash event. And I mentioned at the time, I wondered, would he get heat from WWE because of it? Because of course, Snoop Dogg's quite heavily tied to WWE. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He's appeared on WWE programming a ton of time, performed at WrestleMania a ton of times. His cousin, Sasha Banks, is a SmackDown Women's Champion. He recently interviewed The Undertaker as part of The Undertaker's final farewell retirement deal, his media blitz. They also had a merchandise collaboration between The Undertaker and Snoop Dogg. They were selling on WWEshop.com. The Snoop Dogg is very WWE, and WWE like having Snoop Dogg part of their extended WWE family. So once it was announced that Snoop Dogg would be appearing for AEW in January, it did get a lot of people talking. Is WWE going to be annoyed about this? Now, yesterday I said they might be annoyed. I didn't think it would have any repercussions on Sasha Banks or anyone like that, but you know for a fact WWE, of course, they're petty and they would have some issues with this, and apparently that is the case, because celebrity WWE Hall of Famer Snoop Dogg reportedly has some heat within WWE for his upcoming AEW Dynamite appearance. AEW announced this week that Snoop would be appearing on the January 6th Dynamite episode on TNT to promote the, quote, Go Big Show, or Go Big Show, whatever it's called. I hate that title. I said it yesterday. It does sound like WWE. Maybe that's why Snoop is on AEW. So I'm pretty sure I'm doing the Big Show, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, he's going to be on Dynamite to promote the Go Big Show talent competition series that is set to premiere on TBS the next night, featuring Snoop and AEW Executive Vice President Cody Rhodes as two of the judges. January 6th is also the same night as WWE's NXT New Year's Eve special that airs on the USA Network. Now, it was noted by Brian Alvarez, so take that as a pinch of salt, because especially recently, but it was noted by Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Radio that there were some people within WWE that were, quote, very upset over Snoop appearing on AEW TV. Now, Snoop has appeared on WWE TV a few times over the years and was inducted into the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame in 2016 by John Cena. He recently partnered with WWE for a limited edition merchandise collaboration with The Undertaker. Regarding the collaboration with The Undertaker, though, there were some rumors going around on social media when this report came out that there was heat, that WWE had pulled the merchandise over Snoop's upcoming appearance with AEW. That is not true. That is false. It should be noted that the limited edition merchandise was only scheduled to run through Sunday, December 6th, and it had already been pulled actually before the announcement that AEW made about Snoop's debut. So the idea of they pulled it, it was gone anyway. It's limited edition. That's kind of the point. Limited edition. I know sometimes, when you see those like sweets or candies, or you go to McDonald's and KFC and they've got limited edition stuff and it's there for like 5 years. This was legitimately limited edition, and it did very well from what I understand from WWE's point of view, that merchandise. A WWE right to be annoyed? I'm sure they've got in their mind, they've got a part of that. He's going on a rival promotion, and he's going on a rival promotion at the same time and date that they're doing a TV special of their own on the USA Network with NXT. So, of course, they're going to be annoyed about that. I guess there's so many ways to look at it. One, maybe don't have NXT on Wednesdays to try and counter-program AEW. Maybe then you wouldn't run into that issue. Another thing is, when it comes to Snoop, I don't think he has much of a choice. He's there to promote a show that's in the same, Warner Media sphere. It's on TBS. His show, that Go Big show. I mean, I don't think he has a choice. If he's in a deal with Turner Broadcasting, which he obviously is on this Go Big show, he would probably have to do some promotion. And if they say to him, can you do some promotion on our wrestling show, which is in Turner Media or Warner Media or whatever, you don't really have much of a choice. It's probably part of the contract to do the show. So WWE being a bit petty, going, oh, he shouldn't be appearing. I don't think he has much of a choice, okay? This is something outside, and, I don't know. I just thought it was a bit of a... you go, okay, sure. We're annoyed, but we're not threatened by AEW. Remember, that's the thing. Whenever you have any things like this, whenever WWE ever has heat on anyone for going to AEW or for appearing on AEW, the story comes into my head once again of Vince McMahon. We don't even look at AEW. They're not even competition. Or Triple H. We don't even pay attention. We don't even know what they're doing, right? When those claims and people come out about the counter-programming deal and they say, oh wow, we don't even pay attention. We don't counter-program. We don't even know what's going on at that time. We don't pay attention. Oh, BS. Of course you pay attention. Even Snoop Dogg has heat for appearing on AEW. You're obviously paying attention. Do me a favour, honestly. And finally, as we're talking about NXT, let's finish off with an NXT story, specifically an injury and surgery for Bobby Fish. Now, Bobby Fish suffered a triceps injury during Sunday's WWE NXT TakeOver War Games 2020 main event, which of course saw the Undisputed Era defeat Team Pat McAfee. Now, it was revealed during the Casualties of War Games video package that aired on NXT this week that Fish had to be taken to hospital after War Games. Fish noted that he underwent surgery to reattach his triceps. There's no word yet as to how long Bobby Fish will be out of action. If he says that he had to have surgery to reattach his triceps, of course we don't know the severity of the injury, but if it's serious enough to have surgery on his triceps, would imply he's going to be out for a while. Edge had pretty much the same injury. Again, we don't know the extent. So Bobby Fish could be out of action at this point, I guess, for 3, 4, maybe even longer months. So that is upsetting, especially for the Undisputed Era coming off a big victory. Now, once again, they've just been, reunited after being off TV or injuries or whatever, and now we've got another one out of injuries. It was also revealed during this Casualties of War Games video package that Dakota Kai suffered some sort of a neck injury in the Women's War Games match. There's no word on yet if this is just a storyline, but Dakota Kai noted in the video we won't be seeing her for a while. She blamed the injury on the eclipse from Ember Moon onto the stack of steel chairs and from the hammer attack by Rhea Ripley. Raquel Gonzalez also noted that Dakota Kai was forced to sit at home due to her injuries, as we noted yesterday. Candice LeRae also suffered an arm injury during the Women's War Game match, which her team won over Team Shotzi Blackheart. It was originally believed that Candice LeRae suffered a broken arm. She was wearing a sling after TakeOver ended, but since then she's just been wearing the smaller brace on her lower arm, so possibly it wasn't as severe as we first thought. It could be a case of a broken arm. Of course, broken arms come in all forms of severity. You can just be a fracture. Technically, that counts as a broken arm. this brace might just be a quicker way of healing up. So just because she's not wearing a sling, it doesn't mean that she might not have a broken arm. So that's another injury. It was also revealed on NXT this week that Timothy Thatcher needed 5 stitches to close the wound in his ear. Thatcher suffered a bad cut to his ear during the submission by Tommaso Ciampa at TakeOver. Ciampa won that match, but their feud continued during this week's show. It was also noted previously as well, in addition to those injuries, that Johnny Gargano had stitches in his mouth following his North American Championship victory. And there was also lacerations to the face of NXT Tag Team Champion Oney Lorcan coming out of War Games. So many injuries. And I know injuries in pro wrestling, it's par for the course. I understand that. But it feels like at the moment, every NXT TakeOver show we have, War Games or not, injuries. And it does have to make you wonder about the style that NXT has. NXT certainly has a distinct in-ring style. There's no doubt about it. Hard-hitting, stiff. It's all about the matches. It's all about the product in the ring, which is where NXT have got their reputation, and initially they had their success from on the WWE Network. At this point, is that identity worth these injuries, especially when you're losing on Wednesday nights? It's just worth thinking about. And I know you don't want to be like, oh, NXT shouldn't change to what made them successful in the first place. But, I mean, injuries, you're losing the ratings on Wednesday nights. Something's got to change. Unless, like I said, you are the biggest overpaid leech in WWE history because your main purpose on Wednesday nights is to take viewers away from Dynamite, even though you don't win. That's the only reason. So we'll have to wait and see about that. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on these news stories we have spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, NXT, Impact Wrestling, and all that fun stuff here on the channel. So be sure to leave your comments below. I'll do my best to respond and reply. Get involved in the community. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. It really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.